You talked about a new season a month ago, too. Is this another
Well,
new
here we
season
are.
in a month?
We finally made it.
It matters on Saturday a little bit more because they're keeping score and all their hard work in the offseason. The prep for this first game comes out in 3 hours of game play on Saturday and against a great opponent, respected opponent, and the top of the top sustainability of the FCS level in terms of success over the last 12, 13 years. So we certainly got our work cut out for us. We're not where we need to be, but we only need to be ready by Saturday for the team we're facing. So we'll use today, tomorrow, and Thursday, and then clean up on Friday. Get out of town and do what we can do best on Saturday and give our best shot. But we're improved in a lot of areas, but that's just practice, like we talked about. Practice. The lights aren't as bright. They aren't as big. There's less. There's less fans, there's less noise, and when there's more fans and more noise, that's when we want to see when guys truly perform consistently at a high level. So, great opportunity for a lot of these first timers that are going to start and play for the first time. There'll be some wide eyes, but we got to kind of pitch ourselves, just say it's a game of football. It's not any bigger than it was 10 years ago when we started grid kid football. Field's just as long, just as wide. Touchdowns mean the same. There's always extra points or 2-point tries and conversions after touchdowns. That all hasn't changed, and so we'll hopefully get the butterflies out after the first snap or two for some of these guys who are doing it for the first time. But excited to play in a venue like US Bank.
And, we talked Saturday about your daughter kind of making fun of you for watching last year's film on North Dakota State. But what are you trying to impart on your guys? I know there's new personnel there, but what are some of the things that they do really well that you're trying to impart on your team?
They're probably the best coached team. And I say this not just this year, but in the 6 or 8 times that we faced them in the last 13 years, they're the best coached team, the most technically sound, play harder than most team over the course of that period of time, and that's the ultimate respect, I think, as a coach. When you get told your team is well coached in all 3 phases, boy, that's you can do something with that. And then the effort to combine the coachability of those guys, it's evident on film. They're not going to stray away from what they do best, and that's run inside zone. They're going to run some gap scheme. They're A-gap power. They're going to play 12 and 13 personnel on offense as much as they can, stay away from throwing the ball, and that's going to be the challenge, trying to get them to throw the ball. Well, that all happens on first down. How successful are we on defense on first down? They're not a high-pressure team, but they're a high-savvy team. They're a high-IQ team on defense. And special teams isn't going to beat themselves. They're gonna factor in on special teams, and so like I said, we got it's a tall task. It's absolutely a tall task, but they're not gonna get away from what they do best, whether it's 22 or 23. We'll take away some of those things scheme-wise that they'll provided us last year on film, just like we have film for them. But we're going to do some different things too, and that's kind of the game 1, game 2, game 3 non-conference slate where you're going to be similar, but it's our job and duty as coaches to find out how different they are and then obviously make adjustments as fast as we can.
When you are approaching the start of the season and this first little stretch that you guys have, how do you kind of approach checking out the composure, especially in the younger guys, one with the huge first game, but also just that first stretch of knowing where you stand?
Well, I think it's not just the kids. Sometimes it's the adults in the room too that are called coaches. It's the first for everybody in the 23 season against a highly touted opponent, against a very successful opponent over a long period of time. And so, make no bones about it. It's not a faceless opponent. We know who we're facing, and they've earned everything that they've gotten and up to this point. And we've had a few run-ins over the last 10 or 12 years. We've been on the good side of some and not good side on others, and that's what good teams do. They have a chance to meet outside of the normal league season, especially when you're in the Missouri Valley versus the Big Sky. But there will be some jitters. There'll be some excitement. If you're not excited, I don't think you're in the right place. We got talked about that a month ago going into camp. If you're not excited for camp, whether it be a fifth-year senior or coaching for 23 years, you might have to get your pulse checked, at some point, because at some point, if it's not exciting, then the question is, are you doing the correct thing? It's how you sustain that excitement, even though things may not go your way, and do what you're coached to do at emotional level. This game's an emotion, passionate sport of football, but you can't step over the ledge because all of a sudden you'll fall. And it's a team game at the end of the day. And so making individual plays, celebrate with your teammates is the way to go. The more plays that we celebrate, the better success we have as a team. And so it'll be interesting to sustain that passion, but don't play so emotional that you're being someone that you're not.
And then the opportunity to play where you guys are playing. Obviously, you don't want to play into those emotions, but you have these guys that have dreamed of an opportunity like that for forever. Is there a little chatter? Are the guys, excited about that or trying to?
Yeah, I think at some point you got to hop into being an 18 to 23-year-old. Like go into the locker room as if you were one of those guys. At some point, there's conversation when the game got unveiled that we were going to play there, and it's like, oh, that's cool. We're not only playing North Dakota State. It's at a neutral site, but it's also at the home of the Minnesota Vikings. So that's good chatter, because if you're playing at Fargo, those conversations are a little bit different. Maybe they're not as special because some of those guys have played in Fargo before. It's certainly memorable. They'll take with this 3 hours with them for the rest of their lives. That's what it's all about. And it's the opportunity to play for a lot of these guys in Allegiant Stadium and now U.S. Bank. It's kind of cool. In a matter of 3 years, you played in not only 2 NFL stadiums, but the first collegiate game in those stadiums forever and ever and ever. And so when their kids have kids and they have grandchildren, they can say, we can fact check this, that Eastern actually did play the first game, in Allegiant Stadium, in the first collegiate game in U.S. Bank. And so that's cool. But then it stops at that. Now we recognize that once the ball's kicked off, what's done is done, and then what happens, happens. And so we can control those things from the kickoff on.
When Keikoa came into the game at Florida last year, he really excelled, was able to have, stay calm and really drive the offense down the field. Do you feel like he's got that mentality where this opportunity on Saturday is not something that could phase him?
I do. I do think he's an unflappable player, and at that position, I think that's probably the only position you probably want to be the most unflappable because of all the situations that you're presented with throughout the course of a game. Much like many quarterbacks of the past, as a head coach or an assistant coach, when I get in my little angry stages or stages where I need someone to kind of make me a little bit more unflappable, I'm going to lean on Keikoa. Just like I leaned on E, and there's a lot of times I said, E, give me a smile. I need the smile. It's got to rub off, and sure enough, it did. And so I think he's that guy. He has fun with it. He takes it very serious, even though he may not be as demonstrative as some guys being as air quote competitive. He's a competitor. He just does it in a different way. And the way he does it is a calming effect on a lot of guys, including coaches. He's more than capable, but we also got to remember he's only started one game. So, and he's also up against about 14 other quarterbacks that have been pretty damn good around here. So naturally, no matter how he plays, it's going to be, well, did that compare to A, B, C, D? It's Keikoa. That's who he wants to be, and that's who he intends to be. But there's a long lineage of quarterbacks that he knows that have put up gaudy numbers here and been nationally respected, and he wants to be the next one. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over the course of his career. And I think he's embarking on his journey. Started at Northern Colorado, but his real, the guts of his journey really starts this Saturday as we go forward.
And I know it's been a long time, but the national championship game, you were one of the few that are still left in the program that was there for that. Is there any kind of wisdom you're trying to impart on this year's team about that experience, and maybe a little chip on your shoulder heading into this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the game is needed to be played with a chip on your shoulder. I don't think you create that. Maybe you could create a little bit bigger one, but again, it's almost like a guy playing emotionless or non-passionate. It's like this isn't a recreational level. The higher up you go, the less recreational this game is. Everybody's good, and everybody intends to win and is willing to do more to win at this level. And then you get to the next level, it's even more competitive. So, it kind of makes me laugh because whenever you say, "Hey, back when I played," or "back when the coaches did this," or "in this game 6 years ago," that's when you get the eye rolls. That's when you get the chin tilts. a lot of times guys don't want to know what happened 5 years ago. Now, the guys that played in that game in 2019, January 2019, now there's some guys on this roster that are still there. It's better they tell the story than me tell the story. They hear from head coaches probably too much. They'd all probably raise their hand and say too much. So some of that, even though it's the same message, coming from a different place can mean more. But mentality is everything at the end of the day. And the position I coached, the position I played, if you didn't pack your mentality with you, and it was tough to close that lunchbox with a mentality in it, you're probably going to have a long day. And so that's the thing I want to push on these guys is more mentalities. You're going to be competitive. You're going to play with emotion. But deliver mentality, good, better, and different each and every play. And so we'll play together, and we'll put some things together. And as always, we'll look back, win or lose, and look at what our strengths were, what our weaknesses were, and go forward and prepare for game 2.